Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as specified in the Act. Proper notice of this public meeting was provided in the notice of May 9th, 2011. Said notice was posted at the entrance of the Board of Education offices. Mailed to the Nutley Sun, the Star Ledger, the North Jersey Herald News, and the Nutley Journal. Mailed to the Nutley Township Clerk, advertised in the Nutley Sun on May 19th, 2011, posted on the district website. This is an official meeting. Please rise for a moment of silence for our troops overseas and the flag. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Dancheck here. Mrs. Flynn here. Mr. Kaczynski.
Here.
Dr. Reed.
Here.
Mr. Rogers.
On his way.
Mrs. Russo. Here. Mrs. Scalera.
Here.
Mrs. Pizzata.
Here.
Mr. Clifton.
Here. Approval of the minutes. We have a motion to approve the minutes as distributed.
I make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the roll.
Mrs. Dancheck Norton.
Yes.
Ms. Flynn. Yes. Mr. Kaczynski.
Yes.
Dr. Reed.
Yes.
Mrs. Russo. Yes. Mrs. Scalera.
Yes.
Mrs. Pizzata.
Yes.
Mr. Clifton.
Yes. Correspondence?
We do not have it.
Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta. So just a couple of things I'd like to go through. And the board, first is just to review again the OFAC decision. I want to confirm that everyone received in briefing the actual decision that was handed down, 19-page report regarding $326,000. And we will be looking at that again in committee, and our attorneys are moving forward with the appeal process. Just want to make sure everyone has the information. Next thing, I'd like to talk about two specific instances regarding communication. I've been saying this from the beginning that one of the things I want to make sure we do with being superintendent is communicate well. And I want to apologize for one of the recent incidents regarding the decision with the football schedule. The decision was actually made cooperatively by both districts, as you know. The two athletic directors as well as the head coaches have been talking about the decision for 3 years at this point. It's been determined basically in the best interest of kids, as we talked about in the briefing, but I did want to bring up the fact that we want to make sure that it's rolled out in the best possible way. I've been in contact with Mr. Ficardo, the superintendent over in Belleville, for weeks on this issue. He actually has an athletic committee meeting this evening. We're discussing it again. Everyone seems to be on point again with the fact that this is the decision made in the best interest of kids. I do want to say first off, though, that I recognize that this is a Nutley tradition, and tradition is a key piece of community. And I've been saying for 7 months that it seems like at the heart of our strength as a school district is the fact that we are Nutley the community. That said, we had every intent of communicating directly with you first at committee level, so we had time to talk about this and ask and answer questions, but then also to have specific conversations with members of the community before we roll it out whole hog. That obviously did not happen. You know, it is our goal every time to roll things out appropriately. That said, now that it's out there, I do want to speak to this. I recognize it's a cornerstone tradition and we don't want to touch it for that reason. Also, because of that, I want to make sure we're respectful of that. I know the Nutley Belleville game has not always been on Thanksgiving, but it's something that's been going on for decades. It's also, when it was moved to Thanksgiving, it became a nice tradition for the town, and I know for a lot of the adults in the town, leading into the game. That said, if you read either the articles in Nutley Sun or the Belleville Times, it details how times have changed for football, for high school athletics, and how by leaving that game it's actually detriment to the program and to the students. There's such a thing as a 50% rule. Just to get into the playoffs, teams have to be at minimum 50%, and when you schedule your nines, you're only allowed 9 games in the season by NJSAA. When you put that 9th game off, at times it will hurt your schedule, your strength of schedule, even if you can make the playoffs. When you're looking for that 5th game, if you will, it hurts your seeding. Also, this idea of PowerPoints. When we play the game that late, we miss the cutoff to count this game PowerPoint-wise, which is one of the reasons both schools want to see this game played earlier, because number one, the winner of the team obviously generates more PowerPoints, but the loser does the residual points as well. Within the new system, it's just like the college system. If you lose to someone who keeps winning, you look better. So it's been hurting our program in that respect. In talking to the coaches, their focus has always been playoffs, and a quote from our coaches that, yes, you want kids to be able to play in the Thanksgiving Day game, but you want kids to be able to play in a playoff game. And the first should never get in the way of the second. That said, just a year ago, when we were moving through to the finals, we did play the Thanksgiving Day game, and at one point we almost lost our quarterback, which is another reason, if you look at the successful programs around the state, they've all moved away from Thanksgiving Day games for this very reason. It's extra preparation and it's actually an extra risk for the students who are playing. With these things in place, we want to make sure that we're making decisions in the best interest of the program and the kids. I know that talking to our coach and a number of our alumni, they were saying similar things, which is that it's great to play in the game, but preparing for that game while preparing for something else, one gets in the way of the other. The other piece is everyone wants to, our goal as a football program, with every athletic program, is to be the best possible experience to our students. And of course, part of that is going as far into the season as possible. Pushing this game off actually hurts that, makes that less possible. Again, I talked about last year. The other piece is that the NJSIA is consistently voting on this idea of a group tournament. So after the playoff system that we have now, actually having schools at different levels play one another, that's been growing in support, or support for that's been growing over the past couple of years, and it looks like when they vote again in a year and a half, if that goes through, they're going to change the schedule anyway. So what we're trying to do is stay ahead of that curve, maintain our traditions, and make sure we're ready for the future as the NJSIA feels it should come. That was the negative communication. I want to talk about positive communication as well. I want to thank Ms. DeVillio, Ms. Villani, as well as all the administrators, teachers, certainly our academic committee and the rest of the board, talking about our program of study. We've had really good turnout, as you'll see during the presentation, as far as community members coming forward and asking questions. And some of the board members, we've gone around Ms. Villani, have had individual, small group, large group conversations with people, the way I keep saying that we want to communicate. And from the feedback that we've gotten from those meetings, it's been very positive. Questions that were good questions, concerns that were valid concerns were raised, and we were able to talk back and forth about why as a district we're moving in this direction. And overall, it looks like the process has been extremely positive. So we want to make sure we keep communication like that going forward. And I thank everybody for engaging in the conversation. I do want to congratulate Mr. Kelly, with his assistance from Ms. Casilli, all the high school students who are here, as we can see for the board, the unveiling of their public servants announcement regarding bullying. I want to congratulate them, soup to nuts. It was a student-driven endeavor, and I think you'll see the results were well worth waiting for. I want to mention strategic planning. Our next strategic planning meeting for the leadership team is this coming Thursday. We're using data from parent leadership and the student surveys that went out. I want to thank everybody for participating. I do want to also try and encourage people, please go to the main website. Our community survey is there, and it's the one survey that, for whatever reason, has not gotten the response that we need to actually use it as a valid source of data. So if you could please encourage everyone, go right to the main website under strategic planning and just take the community survey. It would be greatly appreciated. Dr. Librera will be there on Thursday as we start to move the actual writing process forward. We're in final preparation for our QSAC visit, which will happen before our next board meeting. County office is scheduled to come in February 8th, which is a Wednesday, and we're in our final preparations with that. We'll make you known through briefing where we stand and how that visit goes. Finally, and not finally, our RFP process. We are moving forward with ad hoc committee for the process regarding the board attorney. Our submission deadline for the new student information systems is closed, and our technical team is currently reviewing those RFPs. We received 13 respondents. We're in review of the current submissions for our solar RFP, and we've been back in touch with 2 of the vendors. I'll have more information for the administration committee as we move forward with that. We've opened our RFP for web solutions. That opened this past week, and will stay open until the second week of February, and we'll get more information on that. And finally, we are finalizing the last pieces of the RFP for athletic position, and that will go out in the coming weeks. There's a great deal more, but I think other than that, I've covered the specifics through the
Thank you, Mr. Rosen. We have a few presentations now. The first one is with respect to the Nutley Educational Foundation. For those of you who don't know, the foundation is a nonprofit organization charged with raising funds to support the education of the community. Mr. Brzezinski has arranged to have a couple of people present the way in which we can raise money. Mr. Brzezinski.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I just want to make it clear, as the President said, The Nutley Educational Foundation is a nonprofit organization, I believe probably instituted by Marie Alamo when she was a board member. What it does, and what we're looking at it as a board, is more ways to bring additional money into the district to help our children. The two presentations that or at least one presentation you're going to hear tonight, I don't see my other person, but maybe I can just touch on it a little bit, is ways that you as parents or administrators or people who live in a district can donate easily to the Educational Foundation at no cost to you. And what happens with the money that goes into the Educational Foundation, our superintendent and a committee of the Educational Foundation group will make decisions when they get calls from the principals at the schools or through the superintendent on how best to use some of that money to help our children. I know in the past we've used it for smart boards, maybe Mr. Cook, other things that we've done with it. I think it was mainly smart boards. I don't know what else.
We've also, the Educational Foundation, not only within the school district, we bought there were about 75 seats in the auditorium.
That's correct,
There was a chunk of money that went to the high school. In addition, money was passed through to the high school for purchasing equipment. The foundation also supports, through money that was raised actually through the adult school, for some of our special needs students who graduated out of the program and are now young adults. We have a program to help them out also. So it's the district primarily, the school district, but also the community, the other items in the community that we support.
This program has been in place for a couple of years. What's happening now is that myself and Mr. Scalera and Mr. Cook have just decided to push this a little bit more because of the needs of our children, because of the needs of the district. We thought it would be better ways that we could help raise some money to help defer some of our costs. So without further ado, I don't know, Valerie or
Yeah, okay, so, Mr. Peter.
okay, Monica from TD Bank will give you a little brief background on how you can help your children in another way.
We want to first thank you for having us here and giving us an opportunity to talk a little bit about this program, the Affinity Program. It's a wonderful program that does not cost the district anything. I will tell you that my entire family, I'm a Nutley resident, my entire family lives in Jersey City and I have family in Miami Beach, and all of their accounts are affiliated to the Nutley Education Foundation. So you wouldn't know that because this program, as it's set up, is anybody that has a bank account with TD Bank, whether it's a savings account, a money market account, a checking account, or if it's a small business account. If you go into any of our branches, and we have our two branch managers here, we have Valerie, who is the manager for our store across the street from the high school, and Renelle, who is the manager of our Kingsland office. If you happen to bank with us and you go into the bank and say, I would like my account affiliated to the Nutley Education Affinity Program, there's a coding that's done behind the scenes. They code your account. Again, that information is not given to you. We do not let you know who is signed up for the Affinity Program. But at the end of the year, what we do is we cut a check and we give it back to the Education Foundation. Last year, the check that we gave to the Ed Foundation was approximately $5,000. I will tell you, I'm working on this program with other districts, other recreation programs, and we have issued checks as much as $20,000. So there's a lot of money that could be had. What we do is we can help you promote the product if you would like. It does not have to be a hard sell. If you're having any events at the school, whether it's a PTO or if it's any type of a fundraiser, we would be more than happy to table the event on the table in the back of the room, give information, and ask people. And if they bank with us already, we can code the accounts up to set it up so that money already starts working for you. The way the money is set up is 1/4 of 1% of the average balance that is on deposit for interest-bearing accounts, a money market or a savings account. We calculate that. If it's a savings account, if the savings account is 1/4 of 1%, if it's a checking account, it's 1/2 of 1%. And that's where we come up with the amount. And at the end of the 1-year anniversary, we just set up an appointment. And I know, Valerie, you just issued the check?
Yeah, a couple of months ago, a little over $5,100.
So if you'd like us to help you promote it, we can do it. It does not have to be a hard sell. If individuals are already banking with TD Bank, I suggest that they say, please affiliate my account to the Nutley Education Foundation, and we can just help you in any way we want. So I don't know if there's any questions. I left some flyers with information on it. I'll leave you with my business card, but if you'd like us to help you promote it down the road, we'd be more than happy to.
Thank you, Monica. We have some literature. I think my board members will talk about it a little bit more, but I certainly would like to promote this at all of our PTOs. It's what we would call a no-brainer. It's simply, there's no cost, there's no fee. It's just your money's there, and TD is willing to donate some money back to the Educational Foundation in Nutley, and I think it's a great cause, and I appreciate your help, and I hope we can get some more customers for you. I was expecting to see Jack Smith, but I have Jack Smith, who's supposed to be here tonight from Veridian. And this has been presented to you in the past, but I'll speak very briefly, and I will have Jack Smith at one of our meetings. Veridian is public service. As you know now, in the state of New Jersey, you're allowed to purchase your electricity from different vendors. With Veridian, if you go and you purchase your electricity through Veridian, nothing changes with public service. Your light bulbs aren't changed, nothing's turned off, there's nothing different except the person that public service buys their electricity from, and they can buy from multiple vendors. They buy it from Veridian. Veridian is pro-education and is doing the same thing as TD Bank does in a different way. They will donate back $2 a month out of the total accounts of people that go on Veridian in the state of New Jersey back to the Educational Foundation. Fred Scalera and I met with Jack, and I know he wants to give a presentation. I apologize, I don't know why he's not here, but maybe his electricity, maybe his clock. But we will get more information and have it to you. But it's another simple no-brainer, I think. I know quite a few people that have changed over to it already. There's no difference except who public service buys their electricity from and forward it to you. It doesn't change anything except on your bill where it says ABC supplier, it'll say Veridian supplier, but $2 of that bill comes back, not of your money, but of Veridian's money, comes back into the Educational Foundation of Nutley. And the Educational Foundation of Nutley, as our president alluded to, is simply money that goes back into a pool that the superintendent and the nonprofit organization control, can be used just for the educational system in Nutley. So I think it's helpful. I'll try to get you more information, but I appreciate your time. Thank you.
One last thing, and I know Jack's not here, but besides us getting $2, it saves you on an average of 8% on your electric bill also per month. So they're a reseller that if you sign up for that, and Mr. Kaczynski explained it, right now it says public service buys their electric from different places. All you're doing is telling public service you want them to buy your electric from Veridian. Veridian gives a different rate, so you save about 8% on your electric bill on an average, and then we get $2 per household per month towards the Education Foundation. So it's a win for you signing up, and it's a win for the Education
And this is
Foundation.
part of the going green, okay? I think by 2020, everyone in the state of New Jersey will have to have gone to some type of program like this, part of the Go Green in the state.
Correct, and there are multiple suppliers out there. Veridian's the only one that does the $2 per person back to like the Education Foundations. For educational only, we'll do it. And the money they give back has to go towards some sort of green initiative in the schools for classes, education, but it can go back towards anything like that.
Thank you.
Maybe they would like to leave, Mr. President. They want to stay.
Yeah,
for the meeting, so
thank you very much for your
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Charlie. These are the things we're going to do.
Yeah.
Next presentation, Mr. Kelly, if you want to introduce it.
Well, Ms. Vasili and I both collaborate on this, so maybe she can start introducing.
Sure. Okay. First, we would like to thank Mr. Lazovic and Ms. Galani and the Board of Education members for allowing us to just have a few moments of your time to present this really valuable program this evening. I am the anti-bullying specialist at the high school as well as the student assistance coordinator. And as many of you know, we have a new anti-bullying law that has come into effect this year, and it's come with a lot of new rules and regulations. One of the things that it came with was a designation of a week of respect. And the week was in the first week in October. So the first week of school, the specialists and I coordinated some of the things that we thought we might want to do for the month, actually. One of the things that I had done was I went to Mr. Kelly's TV production class, and I had asked the students who are here this evening, I had challenged them to just come up with a very short public service announcement, which they call a PSA. I learned a lot of new things about this stuff since I've been working with them. It's a PSA, and I asked them to just come up with a very simple anti-bullying PSA that we could take to classrooms at the high school, maybe use as an assembly, and I wanted to be generated by kids for kids. And I just want to specify that there was no grade attached to this assignment. I mean, I went in there, it was really a very much an extra assignment for them. It wasn't part of their grade. You know, we never told them you might be honored for this assignment. We're at a board meeting. We never told them that they would get an award or anything like that. It was something that we purely explained to them, and we're just extremely proud of the product that they came out with, because it's truly an example of kids believing in something and something amazing coming out of it. So I just want to say how really proud I am of you guys for what you did, and the PSA speaks for itself. So Mr. Kelly's going to get into the details, but as you're going to see, it really became a mission for them. This challenge became their mission.
They took the challenge to, I guess you would say, to the nth degree, and they really took it on to themselves. But there was a passion you could see developing within them as they went through the process. And the process is, really something as an instructor, you look at the learning process. First, they developed a storyboard, and they developed a script. Okay. Then they took their technical skills and they employed them in the field, and they employed them in the studio editing. And the third, but probably the most, what I saw was the most growth, is watching them analyze and actually critique their own work and assess their own work, okay? And to evaluate and keep on pushing each other to make it to the best they could. I'm going to introduce you to the whole production team tonight, but first, the first four students are actually going to talk a little bit about the program and about what the actual assignment meant to them, and then we're going to meet the rest of the production team, and finally we're going to debut what I consider one of the finest public service announcements in northern New Jersey. So first I'd like to introduce one of our producers, Raquel McCabe. Mac Del Muro is going to come up with her, Charlotte Cahoon, and Sarah Montez. Why don't you come up?
McCabe, and I know along with the rest of my class and Mrs. Casilli and Mr. Kelly, we felt that we should make this project as authentic as possible. And we felt that students should hear from other students, because instead of hearing from administrators and teachers, it's kind of like we're understanding each other and knowing that bullying is a huge thing in our schools, and it may not be as big in our school as it is in other schools, but we just kind of want to give them a better idea. And I know most of us in this room have experienced bullying in some way, shape, or form, so we hope that you guys get a better idea of how bad bullying can get in schools.
I'm extremely proud to be a part of this too, because I really think it can make a difference in a lot of people's lives. We want to bring the awareness to bullying, and one of the things that anybody could be the bully, anyone could be bullied. It's not always the stereotypical jock who's bullying a nerd. It could be, two girls over a guy or something. It could be anything. And really, another main thing is we want to prevent the effects that bullying causes, that we've seen before in worst case scenarios like a suicide or something like that. And we just really wanted to prevent that, because everyone can take bullying differently. Some people can take it more seriously than others. So we just want to get rid of that in general and prevent that anything. And that's about it.
I had a vital part in the editing of the PSA, and usually that position is very stressful. But with my classmates realizing the importance of this issue, it became a learning experience for all of us as we evolved the production with different concepts and techniques. TV production is so rewarding when everyone works together to reach a common goal.
As part of the rating process, it was a general consensus that we wanted to end on a positive note. While the mood we created was with the music and effects, it was surreal, but bullying is real, and that's kind of what we wanted to portray. The goal of our class was to create awareness of hope that we can prevent conflicts in our community, such as bullying. While we know this is a daunting task, we hope that our message will help in the long run.
Production team. With every good production, you have to have a lead role actor, and I want to hear a lead actor. Okay, Michael Edwards. Michael, come on up. Part of our production team consists of Brianna Campo. Come on down, Brianna. Alexa Cavallo. Eric Davis. Sonia Vito. Michelle Mustasi. Sarah Vanessa. Justin Warren. Amy Italian could not be with us tonight. She's at basketball practice across the street, so Amy couldn't be with us tonight. Evan Tyreman, our steady cameraman here. At this time, we're going to sit back and hope you enjoy. It's about a 4-minute PSA, and I think you'll really enjoy what you see.
That's not your last name. I don't think that was it.
Today I welcome Nutley High School's graduating class of 2012. It's been a pleasure guiding all of you these past 4 years. I wish you all the best of luck. And I am proud to present this year's valedictorian, Thomas Owen.
Since this is a journey filled with trials and tribulations, I've always dreamt of standing up here and speaking to all you guys. Actually, at one point, I never thought I'd make it here. As freshmen, we
entered the halls of Nutley High School. We get to learn and meet new faces. Almost all of my classmates got involved with sports and clubs, while I stood alone. I watched them make new friends and relationships, but I never really fit in. And they knew I didn't either, so.
Are you going to the party this weekend?
A weekends were a time for social growth. I never had the chance to experience it.
Hey, Tom, you going? No, I'm just kidding. While I conducted myself to a standard of excellence in the classroom, my chance in feeling accepted among my peers was it was a complete failure. Of course you got it, man.
But doing well in my classes, it didn't really fill that void of not having a friend. See, life is full of moments that could change you forever. To most of you, December 2nd was just an ordinary Friday. But for me, it hit rock bottom that night, and I was standing alone at death's doorstep.
There's a party this weekend. You want to come? I don't know, maybe.
It took something as simple as one friend to save my life that day.
With the new perspective on life, stand here in front of you guys to share my story. No matter what path you take, just know this. You're never alone.
You are not alone.
Thank you. It's a powerful and important message that we produced and distributing to the students. And I hope they pay attention to it, because it is very important. If anyone has any comments. Thank you again.
Mr. Kelly, Ms. Castillo, thank you. And on top of the message of bullying, I do want to once again just reinforce that these are the kinds of things we want to make available to all our students, because when we give you guys the opportunity to do something like this, and you see the product, so we want to constantly kind of make these opportunities available to you every day. So thank you to your instructors, to all the professors, but certainly thank you for you doing this amazing job.
I think that the students, you probably have homework and stuff, and you do not have to stay for the rest of the meeting. If you want to leave now, that would be fine. So congratulations again. Mr. Kaczynski.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I apologize, but that was a fantastic presentation, but I would like to bring my other presenter out. Jack, this is Jack Smith from Meridian. Again, I think this presentation won't be as dramatic as the one we just looked at, but also very helpful to our children.
I apologize for showing up late. I walked around this building for about 15 minutes before I realized.
Jack went to Belleville High, so
that's why I take you 15 minutes. And, Steve Rogers, right?
Yes, sir. I hope it's a good thing you're going to say.
No.
1970.
Oh, you're ahead.
See that?
I just let everybody know how old I am.
And then you went to Bell. And I went to school with Joe Zauer, your former superintendent, which kind of how this whole thing started. I'm going to be real quick. I'm going to be thankful about that. Meridian Energy is a company that started about 4 or 5 years ago, and they're headquartered in Connecticut. And the theory behind Meridian Energy was basically back about 10 or 12 years ago, 10 or 12 years ago, just like you can shop for your cars, you can shop for your washers and dryers, you were allowed to shop for your energy, electricity and for your gas. But a lot of people living in New Jersey didn't know that, except if you were in a corporation that used a lot of electricity and gas. found out quickly there are companies out there that can give very good rates on those kilowatt hours you're using, and therms that you're using for your gas. What Veridian has done is opened up that savings and reductions in rates on your electricity to residents, to homeowners, condo owners, renters, anybody paying an individual electric bill. And as of January 10th, they started with gas. And basically what you probably might have gotten calls or things in the mail about switching your energy provider. And for a lot of people, and I got a real education myself, was when you get your bill from Nutley Public Services, your utility, you have it broken in two parts. One is for the distributor, which is public service, which is the wires and the transformers and the repair trucks and everybody that shows up at your door in case there's a gas leak or something along those lines. That's a charge that public service charges you to deliver your electricity to your home. The second part of your bill is what's called the supply side. And that's, if you look on your public service bill next time, there's a thing I'll probably say for most of us, BGS, Basic Generation Services. And Basic Generation Services is a default supplier of electricity. And basically, if the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities say you don't shop for pick your lowest competitor for supplies, they automatically put you with Basic Generation Service, like the assigned risk of automobiles, you get assigned to Basic Generation Services. And as a default supplier, they can charge the highest retail rates they want. And that's why in the back of your bills, you're urged to compare and shop and see that here's the rate that you use when you're comparison shopping. What Veridian does is replaces that BGS, or whoever might be in it. And there's two ways you can replace that supplier. You can do now with a fixed rate. Currently, the fixed rate for Veridian for 12 months is 10.75 cents a kilowatt hour versus what BGS is charging is very close to 12 cents, about 11.9 cents a kilowatt hour. And you might not think that 1.5 cent difference means a lot, but it can mean a tremendous amount of savings depending on how many kilowatt hours you use. And another side effect of Veridian is that it's what they call a green company. Because by 2020, all utilities have to purchase their electricity and gas from renewable sources. It's part of the government mandate to renewable energy and cut down on fossil fuels. So as a result of that, Veridian has stepped up, and with the current crisis and funding for education purposes, and cutbacks by the government, and budgets being defeated, schools, one of the things that they have done is come up with a program for nonprofit schools. And as such, for the Nutley Education Foundation is qualifies as a nonprofit. So everybody that enrolls into Veridian through Nutley Education Foundation, Veridian will give $2 each month to the school, to the education fund, every month for as long as they stay with Veridian. As an incentive to that, what Veridian has also done is once you've reached 25 enrollments, they'll give the education fund, Nutley Education Fund, a bonus of $250. And every time you add 25 more people on, there's another $250 bonus. So by the time you get up to 400 enrollments, and every time you reach that 50 number, you'll have about $2,500 in bonuses in addition to the $2 a month that the customers send in. Once you reach 500 members that join and switch to Veridian, in addition to the $2,500 bonus that you've gotten for every 50 that you've met, they're going to double that and give another $2,500 to the Education Foundation. And this is the way that schools can consistently raise money for their projects. Historically, they've done band competition or walkathons or cake sales. And at the end of that, you got to go out and deduct your expenses and then start all over again, and the budget that you might have thought you're going to reach, you didn't reach, and a lot of other reasons that you raise funds for. This is something that is a continuous monthly income, and after about a year, you can basically budget on a monthly basis what you want to allocate your funds towards these different school projects or scholarships, or how you want to make it. Recently, they added on gas, and that is on January 10th, and it works kind of similar, but because of the way the gas market is, for every person that signs up for gas, the foundation will get 85 cents. But once they reach 25 people that sign up for gas, they're going to give them a $100 bonus on top. So every time 25 more people sign up, there's another $100 bonus, and that'll take it all the way up to 400, similar to the way the electricity bonus worked. And you can elect two types. Gas is variable rates, meaning that whatever the rate is for that month, and whatever they purchase it for that month is passed on. It's not offered as a fixed rate. So it can fluctuate. Right now, if you look under the bill for public service, and you've got, again, BGS that supplies the gas, your rate per term, I'm just going to run home and look at what these things mean, about 61 cents. Meridian is offering the same thing for 45 cents. Basically, if you want to think about it, if you're spending about $850, last year, Meridian averaged in New Jersey about 7 to 8% savings across the board on the variable rates. So if you're spending about $800, $700 a month on electricity, you'll wind up saving over the course of the year probably $450 to $475. It's kind of like maybe 12 months of electricity for the cost of 11. And each month you can track and see how many people have enrolled, and you get transparency all the way through. That's basically it in a nutshell. I brought some handouts, but I didn't realize there's...
I'll take the handouts, and then, as I mentioned before, through our board members, we'll make this available and bring more information to every one of our PTOs. And I know a couple of board members are really going to jump on this and try to push it forward, because it is a good fundraiser for the educational and for our children in Nutley.
Yeah, one of the things that the Nutley Education Foundation has already is has a website. We're going to make sure and get them up and running here. And you can actually go on their website and just say become a customer, and you could just follow 3 steps to enroll into the program.
We're almost to that point of having that website.
I was going to say, it's not on here. Don't say it.
It will be.
We've got to update that website.
We're working on it. As soon as we get some more money, Jim.
Any questions?
Yes.
Could the school sign up on it?
Yeah, you could.
Our school can sign up.
Well, Jack, you explained that's a corporate, though. It's a little bit different the way it works, right? The larger customer.
Well, if you want, Meridian is really key for residential and small business and stuff. But if you want something for the building, there's a couple things you might not know, but you do. You're exempt as a school from paying sales tax on your electric bills and gas bills. Okay? A lot of schools don't know that. So I recently did it, for example, Board of Ed, I can't tell you the name of it now because it's kind of confidential. Those are going to be switching shortly. But if you know how many kilowatt hours you use a year, their school system is using about 2.7 million kilowatt hours a year. And they were paying a lot of money. And at the end of the thing, we did a comparison, and we've got quotes, and we've got options for them that we saved them, and they're going to take over in March, switch over $100,000, and it's locked in for 2 years. So at a school system using a lot of kilowatt hours, it's a lot different than individual residents and stuff, but substantial savings can be made. And if you have a corporation that's has warehouses or halls that need to be, want to save money on, they don't get the break on the sales tax, but you save a lot of money on those.
Thank you very much, sir.
Jack, it's a pleasure.
Steve, good talking to you.
This is a reunion, folks.
Our next presentation, program of studies, Ms. Villani, Ms. DeVillio.
Good evening. We wanted to follow up on our presentation at the last meeting to just answer some of the questions that we've received through the parents in the community. No? Just to begin with, we wanted to talk a little bit about the approval process for not only this project, the high school program of studies, but all of the major projects that we're going to be doing moving forward. As you know, we presented the program of studies at the board meeting, the past board meeting on January 9th. After that presentation, we made the program of studies and the PowerPoint available on the website. We also had an email address set up where we asked for questions and comments from the community so that we could help build the program that we're doing. Through the feedback we received, we had a number of individual, small group, and large group meetings where we met with parents and other community members to discuss the questions, not only the questions that they had, but various questions of our program of studies.
As well as students.
As well as students, thank you. And as we're going through this process and building this program of studies, and as we move towards our middle school, we want to always make sure that we have the best interests of our students in mind. So it's important for us to get that feedback from the community, from the parents, and from the students to make sure we're answering everyone's questions and that people are comfortable with what we're doing as we move forward. From there, as you'll see on tonight's agenda, there's a resolution for the program of studies. So we wanted to make sure we had the presentation and then provided time to get feedback. From the feedback that we received through the Program of Studies website, email address, as well as through the different people we've spoken to, we made a list of frequently asked questions. The four main areas that we want to just go over briefly with you tonight are the impact on students' abilities to get into college, AP versus honors and the weighting that goes with that, rank, and National Honor Society. So the first was impact on students' ability to get into college. Mrs. DeVillio did quite a bit of research on this, and she's going to share with you some of her findings.
We started with the research back in September. I called quite a few colleges and then compiled the information and shared it with the coordinators, Mr. Lazovic, Ms. Villani, some of the board members on the academic team, and then with the follow-up questions that were emailed to the Program of Studies at nutleyschools.org, we called additional colleges just to get additional feedback and confirmation that it is pretty consistent across the board. We contacted in-state, out-of-state, private schools, public schools, technical schools in New Jersey, just to name a few. We've touched base with Montclair, Rutgers, TCNJ, Stevens, and JIT. Out-of-state, Villanova, Delaware, NYU, Vassar, College of William and Mary, Haverford, you name it, we contacted across the board. And consistently, the message was the same. We started by asking what impact the honors and AP weighting would be if it was equal, and everyone said absolutely none. We asked about how the lowering of the GPA from our current 5.6 down to a 4.5 would affect students. And most of them, quite a few of them, actually said they were thrilled to hear that we were scaling it back. And these are from more of the high-performing schools, more challenging schools to get into, as opposed to local state schools. Many of them even said that we rely heavily on your program, on your school profile, which is a document that we send with every single transcript and application that goes out, which describes the community. And quite a few of them said not only do we look at your stats on your profile, but we actually look at your description of the community, because we know not all communities are equal, are the same. We know that certain schools offer different programs, and not all the students that are applying to the schools have the same options to take courses, and they look very carefully at what the profiles say the grade scale is and the GPA scale is. One of them specifically said the first thing that we do is look at what the highest GPA is of that graduating class, which is something that we have to actually report on the forms as counselors, and they say they write that on every single application. So when they get to that application itself, they can see the student's GPA and the highest of the class, not the highest that's possible of that particular graduating class. I think I'm going to skip and touch on other things, so I think but mostly they were incomplete. They backed up what we thought and what we've been hearing from colleges for many years. So it was comforting knowing that we were doing what's in the best interest of the children and that we are not really going to affect them negatively when it comes to the application process.
The next set of questions that were asked frequently was in relation to AP and honors classes. In our proposed program of studies, we have them weighted as the same on the scale. And the biggest question was, are our students at a disadvantage? And based upon
College feedback,
our students are not at a disadvantage with this. The one area, though, you need to be aware of is that we have some of our AP courses are competing with honors classes. In those classes for the 2012, beginning of the 2012-2013 school year, their assessments throughout will be the same. So they'll have common assessments periodically throughout their class as well as their final. So, for example, if a student is taking calculus honors or calculus AP.
AB, not PC.
AB, sorry. Their exams will be the same throughout. As we had said in the program of studies, if a student takes an AP course and sits for an AP exam, that will be the only exemption from finals. So if that student does not sit for the AP exam, the Calc Honors and the Calc AB, final exam will be the same exam. So on those three courses that are up there are the only competing AP and honors courses we have. In all other areas, our honors or college prep level courses feed into our AP courses.
They're prerequisites. So, for example, a Chem Honors is the highest course weighting or challenging course that a student could take typically on their sophomore year, whereas an AP course is not a class that you would be taking as a sophomore because the Chemistry Honors is a prerequisite.
Rank, the most frequently asked question has how does not reporting rank affect college applications and scholarship applications?
Again, going back to what the colleges have been saying to us for years, is that the most important factors that they look at when they're evaluating a student for acceptance is, are they going to be successful first-year college students? And they say the determining factors that they really focus on are the transcript itself, what courses has the student taken, have they been challenging courses based on what is offered to them. They can't penalize a student for not taking certain AP courses or certain honors courses if the school itself does not offer them. So within the context of the school, what courses are available and have they challenged themselves and have they done well in them? Are they getting A's and B's in these courses? They also look at the standardized test scores, ACT and SAT. When it comes to rank, in many cases, currently we use a decile system, and it often hurts our students because if a student has all APs and honors, they could be in that second decile. And to report to a college they're in the second decile with all honors and APs, it depends on the year, it depends on the class. So a very challenging transcript from a student may fall within that top 10% or outside that top 10%. And we often don't disclose that information to schools because when we know we're reporting that Joe Smith is in the second decile, but they've had nothing but AP classes since the start of their junior year, it really doesn't help that student. It hurts them in the long run. So we often don't report that currently because we don't want to put our students at a disadvantage.
The next set of questions were about National Honor Society. A number of the questions that came up were about practices that we currently have. And just to be clear, the proposed program of studies is for the 2012-13 school year. So any students who are juniors or seniors now and are looking to get into the National Honor Society are following the current policies, practices that are in place for National Honor Society.
So starting next year, the juniors that would be eligible would need the, well, it's in the program of studies. It's a 3.7 minimum for in the weighted GPA. And a 3.7, whether you are taking all college prep and no honors or AP, is something that is achievable by a student that is not enrolled in any honors or AP courses. So we are not excluding the hardworking, intelligent students that are achieving and doing well in US 2 and English 3 and college chemistry. They too have a very equal shot at getting into the honor study, in addition to being good students and doing their community service and being active in a minimum of six school service organizations, as well as having the required minimum number of community service hours, which are performed outside of the clubs themselves, because the Key Club itself is credit towards community service. So any activities done within the Key Club are part of your Key Club experience. The community service hours would have to come from volunteering at the Red Cross, or doing something with a youth group, or doing something maybe, Shovel Out Seniors program or the Rakes program with the town. So that's where the community service hours would come from.
We wanted to just take the opportunity to thank those of you who provided feedback, either for providing us with information to help us clarify parts of the program of study, but also for some people just gave us comments, and they all helped tremendously. The program of studies at nutleyschools.org is still available. You can still send feedback to that. Each year, our program of studies will need to be approved, and as we work through the school year, we'll continue to update and modify it as we go, so that it's ready to go for the next year. Just one other quick note, we're in the process now of working on the middle school program of studies. The presentation for that will be at the March 12th board meeting. After that, we again will have that up on the website. You can email us through program of studies, and then we'll have that up for resolution at the board meeting following. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Just to alert the board members, we'll have an addendum resolution program of studies.
Mr. President, along with that, can the superintendent bring up the policy changes that are correspond to the program of studies? Are we going to, we should discuss that also.
As, I think when we have the resolution, then we can discuss it then.
Worthwhile meeting. I want to thank First Blair and Steve Rogers and all the board members. I know there was some phone calls going back and forth trying to play the air on a couple of issues, and no one, in my opinion, no one knows the amount of time and energy board members put in. It's just not coming to a meeting twice a month. The time behind the scenes is unbelievable, and I want to thank my board members for the time we did put in on the administration meeting, where we discussed many things concerning the Senate bills, the election, the TD Bank that we saw tonight, the policy changes that we all went through and had much discussion about. Mr. Rogers had some concerns about things that we've addressed in the past, and I think the superintendent is going to hopefully clear up the air on the magazines and the central detention down the road. That will be addressed, Mr. Rogers, sooner than later, I would hope. We talked about the Thanksgiving game, which we had some discussion there, and I thank all my board members for being tolerant, trying to work our way through that. We talked about some work that needs to be done in the parking lot of Radcliffe School. We talked about Chartwells. We had a very extensive meeting, productive meeting, and again, I thank the board for much work that's done behind the scenes.
Thank you.
Just real quickly, we don't have an official academic committee report, but I just want to comment in terms of a meeting we had this past week with the Academic Booster Club. The academic committee will be meeting in early February. Ms. Villani could correct me on the date. I don't have it off the top of my head, but she'll remind me, of course. When is it?
February 7th.
February 7th. But this past week, Trustee Danchek Martin and myself met with the Academic Booster Club to hopefully address and allay some of the concerns that we did have from concerned parents regarding the program of studies. More specifically, it was in reference to the AP honors weighting issue. And I'm hopeful that issue was addressed and that Mr. Lazovic did spend 2.5 to 3 hours of his time that evening. I think we parted there about 10 o'clock that night. But again, it was a tremendous opportunity for us to communicate with the community regarding the rationale behind some of these decisions. And again, I just want to preface this program of studies by ensuring the public that this is not an opportunity to hurt our children. If anything, we want to move this process forward. That's in essence why we brought Mr. Lasvik on board, to raise the bar for our Nutley High School students as well as the students in our district. And that being said, as committee chair, I'm in full support of the program of studies, and I want to thank Ms. Villani and Ms. DeVillio for preparing those frequently asked questions, because again, hopefully that will allay some concerns that the community does have regarding some of the issues that were brought forward in the last few weeks. So thanks again for the support of the administration in moving this process forward.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. Finance Committee met on January 17th. Agenda topics included negotiations. As most of you are probably aware, the contracts for the EAN and custodian units expire on June 30th of this year, and we're about to enter negotiations with both those bargaining units. We'll be going into closed session after this to brief the full board on some of the proposals that we were planning on. We talked about the 2012-2013 budget development, and we talked about some of the deficiencies that are emerging due to a reduction in the fund balance, increase in health benefits, repayment of medical premium that was deferred to the current year, and the OFAC report, which the superintendent mentioned earlier. And, trying to fit all that in within the 2% cap leaves us a shortfall of about $1.3 million. We talked about arbitrage. There's a resolution tonight that we'll be discussing tonight, passing tonight. There's a requirement by the IRS that when you float bonds as a municipality, which are tax exempt bonds, if there are any excess earnings, what your investment income is over what you've paid out in interest in that period of time, those excess earnings have to go to the IRS, and there is a calculation that has to be done, and the resolution is to contract our auditors to do that analysis. We talked about the bookkeeper and the possibility of whether it would be beneficial or not to outsource the payroll system. And Mr. Gaiman informally contacted a couple of payroll companies, and we learned that it would actually increase our cost if we were to outsource it. We have a system, an integrated system with our accounting system and personnel system that does the payroll, and that it's cheaper to keep it in-house. And finally, the grant writer, which we've talked about with respect to shared services, and we have to move on that shortly. Next meeting will be February 21st. Next, we have the hearing of citizens. We now come to the portion of our meeting where we allow members of the public to address the board. In this section, we allow questions or comments on only the resolutions addressed in tonight's agenda. Our board regulations allow 20 minutes for these communications. Each person shall be limited to 3 minutes, and we ask you to try to stay within this requirement. Speakers may speak more than once only after all others wishing to speak on a topic have been heard. All statements will be directed to me as chairperson, and no one may address board members individually. Please be reminded that if your statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, irrelevant, or redundant, your participation may be terminated. Please remember to always state your name and address each and every time you address the board. The first person wishing to speak, please step forward. Seeing no one steps forward, we'll close this portion of the meeting. Dr. Reed, would you move academic resolutions 1 through 3?
Yes, Mr. President, I would like to move academic resolutions 1 through 3 as stated.
Sorry. Discussion. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Stanchek-Norton?
Yes.
Ms. Flynn?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Dr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Mrs. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Scalera?
Yes.
Mr. Sposato?
Yes.
Mr. Clifton?
Yes. I'll move academic resolution number 4, which is not in that which I'm going to read it. This is for the, be it resolved that the Board of Education approves the program of studies for the Nutley High School for the 2012-2013 school year pending the approval of impacted policies before July 1st, 2012. So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, Mr. President. Just clarifying here. Okay, so we're voting on tonight on the resolution to accept the program of studies, which 100% in favor. But the policies that are going to accompany this have not yet been
Right, that's why the
updated.
resolution,
So the
the resolution includes the wording pending the approval of policy, impacted policies. Before, we have to do that before July 1st. When the policy, the program of studies officially comes into play, starting July 1st of 2012. So we have until then to change the policies to be consistent.
and if we run into some difficulty where the policies infringe on this program of studies, I mean, could that happen?
Again, my apologies, but we had every intention of having first reading of the policies that go on, let's see if we can match up. The issues we're finding with the policies have nothing to do with the program of study, but different policies actually impact other levels. And to put it mildly, they're in much needed review. More so than we thought when we actually went into them, thinking we could just take the policies as they were approved and make the necessary changes at the high school level. As it turns out, that's the easy part. The difficult part now is we have to work on the way that the policies should have been written for the middle and elementary schools. They'll be at the next study committee. We're pretty much done with them. So again, the policies have actually, the issues with the policies have nothing to do with the program study.
No, I was aware of that. I just want.
Our first reading will be the February meeting, and then the policies will be second reading and then approved for the first March meeting.
And none of this program of study changes take effect until
Nothing happens until
September
July.
next year.
Exactly right.
Any other discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Dancheck Norton?
Yes.
Ms. Flynn? Yes. Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Dr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Mrs. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Scalera?
Yes.
Mr. Sposato?
Yes.
Mr. Gupta?
Yes. Mr. Kaczynski, will you move administration resolutions 1 and 2?
Yes, Mr. President, I move the administration resolutions 1 and 2 as so prepared.
I'll second. Discussion. No discussion, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Dancheck Norton?
Yes.
Ms. Flynn? Yes. Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Dr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Mrs. Russo? Yes. Mr. Scalera?
Yes.
Mrs. Sposato?
Yes.
Mr. Gupta?
Yes, Mr. Sposato, would you move finance resolutions 1 through 13?
Yes, Mr. President. I move finance resolutions 1 through 13 as written.
Second.
Discussion. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Dancheck Norton?
Yes.
Ms. Flynn? Yes. Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Dr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes, I'm on with communication.
Mrs. Russo? Yes. Mrs. Scalera?
Yes.
Mrs. Sposato?
Yes.
Mr. Gupta?
Yes. Mr. Kaczynski, we move personnel resolution number 1.
Yes, Mr. President, I move personnel resolution number 1 as prepared.
Second.
Discussion. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Dancheck Norton?
Yes.
Ms. Flynn? Yes. Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Dr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Mrs. Russo? Yes. Mr. Scalera?
Yes.
Mrs. Sposato?
Yes.
Mr. Gupta?
Yes. Hearing of the citizens. In this section, we allow questions or comments on all school-related matters. Our regulations allot 30 minutes for these communications. Again, each person shall be limited to 3 minutes, and we ask you to try to stay within this requirement. As stated earlier, all statements will be directed to me as chairperson, and no one may address board members individually. Please be reminded that if your statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, irrelevant, or redundant, your participation may be terminated. Please always state your name and address each and every time you address the board. If the first person wishing to be heard, please step forward.
Good evening, Mr. President. Alan Thomas, 108 Finney Street. Mr. President, could you elaborate on the OFAC decision, what the decision was, and the background for everyone, please?
Correct. Do it without me. It's a complicated decision and at the same time fairly simple. Basically, if I read If I read the opinion correctly, it was contested whether or not our original contract with TriTech going back to 2000, the contract was actually signed in January of 2001, was in violation of state code, which states that you cannot have a contract for longer than 24 consecutive months. We apparently, as a district, looked at that as an ongoing contract past 24 consecutive months, and the state is looking for $326,004. That in-state aid that was given toward that contract into TriTech after the expiration in 2003. Well,
The contract didn't expire.
Well, as far as they're concerned, the contract closed after 24
Right.
consecutive months.
Which is an interesting
And so
decision.
the judgment, summary judgment wasn't in fact concluding that there was a conclusion of the contract after 24 consecutive months, and therefore state funds should not have been provided. That's why they asked for it.
And we're appealing to whom?
We're appealing the process right now. We have some time still to file our final motions, and then we'll see what happens. What ends up happening should we, in fact, owe the money back, as they will withhold that money from our pending state payment.
For this year?
We don't know that yet.
We have to be appeal process.
It would have to be after the appeal process, and even then, we would certainly appeal to make sure that it's very difficult to offset revenue that was expected in a given budget. As far as planning for, it's still going to be devastating planning for that loss. But it's certainly something we would hope, and nothing else, we could either put it off to next year or possibly spread it amongst a number of years so that it's not detrimental to the program that we offer.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to be heard? Seeing no one else coming forward, I close this portion of the meeting. And old business. I'd like to bring up one thing under old business. We talked about it last meeting a little bit. Lara brought it up. The governor has signed the bill which allows the movement of the election of the board members to November. Part of that is, there are some other contingent things that are associated with that. Within CAP, we do not have to have subject the budget to a vote of the citizens. There are still some holes evidently in how this is actually going to work. What I would ask the board members to do is to be thinking about whether we should do that or not. There's three ways it can be moved. One is if by resolution of the board, two, by resolution of the commissioners, or three, the citizens can do it if they get 15% of the ones who voted in the last presidential election to sign a petition. It goes through ballot. So there's three ways to do that. So I ask the board members to be thinking about it, and there's pros and cons. Each of the committees will be meeting before our February board meeting, and we'll be discussing it at the committee level. But I would like to have everybody come back at the February meeting where we will make a decision one way or the other. I think that no decision is a decision, so I think we have to make a decision in February one way or the other. So people give it consideration. It's not an easy decision.
Mr. President, thank you. We've been talking for some time about another workshop that we've had. I think this is one of those issues that the 9 board members should be in the workshop, so we can talk about the pros and cons, published like we did last time. And we've got some other issues, shared services we talked about, we're going to have a workshop on, the 9 of us together to talk about, so maybe we can pick a workshop date and do that.
Board retreat.
Board retreat, I'm sorry, retreat, apologies.
Actually, I think probably when we have the conversation with admin, but we're looking at the middle of February to have the board retreat. It's recommended strategic planning. Gives us enough time to come together regarding this. That way, Mark and music already met. So as far as topics and things like that, we're looking for that this week.
That'd be great, so if we can do that, I appreciate it, thank you.
So wait, when does this have to be voted on? If we're going to make a decision, we're going in
Right now,
November.
planning on hopefully having, if we go the route of moving it, need a resolution for the February meeting, that gives us enough time. Otherwise, we start to run into the timeline where we have to file to set the April election.
If we don't make a decision, then it's...
Stays where
it is.
Yeah.
Which is a decision. No decision is a decision to leave it in April. But I would like that to be a conscious decision as opposed to a default decision.
Will we get input from superintendent
I'm
on the
going to
pros
another
and
meeting
cons?
about this specifically on Wednesday. We're going to roundtable of superintendents. And in the committee meetings, what we want to do is make sure we're giving all the possible evidence we can. A better reading of the actual law itself, the timelines and implications, as well as what other districts locally and across the state are doing and why, so that we can try to make an informed decision. Again, if we choose not to do it for this year, it doesn't prevent us by law to do it next year, but once we do it, we're locked in for a minimum of 4 years. So we want to make sure we weigh it carefully. The piece that Mr. Cook was talking about, though, is we do have to file for the April election. So really, we haven't made a decision by that meeting because it's the end of February. We're willing to kind of then move ahead of the assumption we're going to move. So as he said, our decision will either be to move it or we'll make a decision not to move it by the February meeting.
And is there, on Karen's end, a financial benefit?
We're not 100% certain of what it is because Board of Elections pays for November election. I'm sure we'll come up with some kind of shared service agreement. But Ms. Yeamans had already looked, and over the past 3 years, we spent an average of about $30,000 on the election. And so certainly there will be some kind of savings in that direction.
And the NJSBA put out a talk, I think it was about, an hour long, and it described everything within the bill and the processes they think that are going to be put in place for it. So I think it's very worthwhile to listen to it, and this way you can understand it a little bit better.
We can put a direct link to that in briefing as well. They also released a model resolution.
Mr. Kutcher, if I could, and I was with one of the Board of Commissioners today, but they've had the opportunity to change the township for the past 2 years and done multiple reviews on this and have decided not to change theirs to bring other things in, which we'll talk about. But the commissioners could have done this and also saved a few $1,000s per year, chose not to do it also. And they've had the opportunity to want to do that for the past 2 years, actually.
Okay. Any other old business?
I just wanted to thank the administrators for the program studies. I know they did a tremendous job in a short period of time to get it done. So I want to thank Mrs. Malani and Mrs. DeVillio for all their work. And I also want to thank them for communicating directly with the members of the community. There was so many questions. It's a good communication dialogue to open up on these type of issues. And so I wanted to thank them for being involved, and Superintendent Lazovic too for reaching out to the EBC and meeting with them. And also, the one question I have, and I don't know for future reference, do we track AP courses and how many kids take them, classes?
There will be a presentation on AP performance for sure.
Because I think that would have helped inform. It seemed like just some of the questions kind of zeroed in on AP performance and whatnot, and it's the grades and how the grades are changing for the future in the college. So I think that's something we need to have a little bit more information about going forward and building these programs and studies.
With all the student performance data, what we try to do is start big picture and start to move to specifics so that everything has a place in the larger scheme, and we will absolutely have a presentation.
Mr. Rogers.
Oh, Steve. I'd like to report to the school board that the issue regarding Radcliffe School, the grounds, Commissioner Tucci has sent his crew out there, doing a great job on trimming High Five Hill, and I believe Commissioner Scarpelli is next, I guess, going to send an engineer out there. And I bring this up because this is that part of that shared service concept that we've been talking about, and it's working well, at least in that area. I'd also like to say hello to the Spring Garden School staff. Any chance I get, I've made this a habit. I'd like to thank the professionals in this district for what they do for us. They do a lot, so thanks for coming out and thanks for your work. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Scalera.
Actually, I have quite a few, Mr. Kutcher. I apologize. But one, back to following up Mr. Rogers, and we talked about it, was the engineering. He supplied drawings to us at the administrative meeting. Sorry about that. I was going to say the administrative meeting. And on our shared services, I'd like to see by next meeting, let's have a report that we've contacted Commissioner Scarpelli. He's offered an engineering service and his new personnel to come out and look at that parking lot. And I think that'd be a good first move to find out what we might be able to do temporarily and what we need to plan for financially. Okay. Number two, on that same topic, it's been a while since we've talked about shared services. We talked about low-hanging fruit. Mr. Cesaro asked about the Meridian. I want to know, or I'd like to hear a report at the next meeting that we've met with Commissioner Tucci about the JEF, the Joint Energy Fund, the township belongs to. They're about to go back out for bid in that large group. It's a matter of assigning paper. The township saved $85,000 this year with no work whatsoever. And gas is coming on board with them also this year on the bidding. I'd like for the administration to report on a conversation with Commissioner Tucci about joining the joint insurance fund by our next meeting also. Number 3, I'd like to talk about, I was at my son's entering freshman grade. I want to thank Ms. DeVillio and Ms. Alani and Mr. Barry. I went to the program. It was great attendance. There were a lot of kids there. It was really good. One thing I found out afterwards, and I did talk at the administration meeting, last year I talked about my son going from 8th grade to 9th grade while I was running for the campaign, and a form came home and told me, if you want these AP courses, check them and send it back in. Except for hearing the briefing there, I found out that we're going to get that same form between 8th and 9th, and it's not really in meetings or counseling. We talked about the administrative meeting. I'd like to make a recommendation that we hold a one-night open gym symposium when these forms go home, and advertise that we have one night to come to the high school gym, have all our counselors there, so the parents can ask questions before they return that form. So I'd also like to get a report on that, if we could turn that over to the administration for the next meeting also. Because I think that's our next step. I think we've taken all the right steps so far. I hate to see just that form come home and every parents have to check the box and send the form back in without having a discussion with counselors. I did talk to Ms. DeVillio, and she said we just wouldn't have enough time to get everybody into all the counselors. Mr. Skinsky and Mr. Rogers at the meeting, we talked about maybe then having that open gym night, so parents that don't know it while the counselor's there, maybe you could say, if you're alphabet A, F, come between 5 and 6, 6 to 7, so we don't have to have all at once also. But I'd like to see if we can get that accomplished. I think it'd really be our next phase, especially with the changes in what's occurring. I'm sorry, 2 more. Number 3 is the RFPs on the website, and I want to thank everybody. The website has all of our RFPs now. The public knows what we're doing. People looking for contracts. I think we're getting better bidding because of it, because people track these websites. So I want to thank you. The RFPs are really turning up on the website timely, working well. And the last thing, TD Bank and Veridian, I'd like to see if we can meet with our technology people to set it up, because there's a link to the Education Foundation is not up yet, but if we can do a write-up, they can link on it, just join automatically off our site, as well as TD Bank if you look at that. Thank you. I know I said a lot.
Mr. Levine actually has an information already. We're looking to put that up now. He's been working with Mr. Beamonster. He actually right now is with PT Council. So we're working to bring all those different websites under one hub, which would be nothing technical. So it's in the works.
That's great. Thank you.
Mr. President, one more thing, if you will. I would be remiss if I didn't mention our staff at Yanacor. I'm looking and I'm saying, I know where they're from. Please forgive me. Please forgive me.
Wait, Mr. President. Junior high school up here.
I just left them up. I just can't wait, folks.
I'd just like to welcome all the staff members to every school and administration. Any other old business? Any new business? If not, whereas the Board of Education will be discussing matters exempt from public discussion pursuant to NJSA 10:4-12. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education recess to close executive session at this time to discuss student matters and negotiations. Be it further resolved that the results of the discussion will be made public by inclusion on the agenda of a subsequent meeting of the Board of Education, or when the reasons for discussing such matters in closed session no longer exist. I so move. All those in favor? Aye. Just to inform the public, at the end of the closed session, we will adjourn that. We will adjourn the meeting. No further action.